Joch Llawydd. Llawydd Rural Mid and North Wales needs a strong ambulance service, particularly in emergencies with a lack of district general hospital in these areas. It makes the need for an air ambulance service all the more vital. Now, the Minister, you will be aware, of course, that the final engagement process has now begun. The review is being led by a service within the Welsh NHS, but of course you are the Health Minister and you are responsible for ensuring appropriate policy is in place and ensuring that patients are transferred to appropriate medical facilities rapidly. And I know, Minister, you've been involved in this process as well. So you have the ability to intervene, to influence and to decide what happens. So are you, Minister, prepared to take on board the significant concerns that have come across from communities in North and Mid Wales to ensure that both sites in Welshpool and Carnarvon remain open so that we have an ambulance service that reaches all parts of Wales and takes into account the very specific nature of some of the most rural parts of Wales?
Thanks very much. Well, the Air Ambulance Charity, of course, is an independent charity. It's independent of government. But you're quite right to point out that there is obviously a relationship because with Welsh Government in the sense that there's a link with the emergency aspect of it. And ESC and the chair of the ESC committee has been absolutely instrumental in terms of ensuring that the public has had its voice heard in relation to any proposed changes. So as you say, there has been significant feedback already to inform the review during the last phase. What's happened now, I think, as a result of that, is that two options have been put forward, and that's what's now going out to the public. I did ask the chair of ESC specifically to make sure that he'd listened in to the conversations that took place within this chamber, just to get a real sense of what were the concerns of people in this chamber.
Thank you, Minister. I mean, first of all, the Air Ambulance Charity, as you say, is a charity, but they are commissioned by the Welsh NHS. And they've also accepted the result of this process, and they will follow the result of this process. And of course, the NHS pays for the paramedics and the equipment on those air ambulance vehicles. So it's important, Minister, that this is ultimately a decision for the Welsh Government and the Welsh NHS. I was a little bit concerned when you said there are two options that have now come forward, because the Commissioner has told me, and it says so in the documentation, there are 6 options that have come forward and 2 are preferred. Of those 2 preferred options, both mean the closure of Carnarvon and Welshpool bases, which is entirely unacceptable. And I think, Minister, what is frustrating here is, whilst you've pointed out there's been an engagement process which has taken place, yes, that is right, significant one. Thousands of people have attended meetings or responded to consultations. But this is the issue. Have they been listened to? Because that doesn't come through when you see 2 preferred options which close these 2 bases. And to go from 4 bases to 3 bases across Wales just isn't appropriate, Minister, and I'm disappointed that we've got to this position, and I think now is the time you, Minister, certainly need to intervene. And it's not only the public that have got concerns, it's clinicians as well. They're saying that they fear lives will be put at risk should these 2 bases close. They're also saying that many of them will actually leave the service. Those experienced people in Welshpool, in Carnarvon, will leave the service. Now, myself and the public have repeatedly been told that this is never about saving money. Is that still the case? And if a case is made for an expansion of the air ambulance service, are you still committed to considering such proposals and financing such proposals?
Thanks very much. Well, you're right, it's not about saving money, but it is about maximising efficiency. And I think that is something that is a responsibility of government to do. So you'll know that there were some principles that were set out. If people get the service now, they will continue to get it, and more people will get the service. So those are the 2 things that were absolutely key in terms of driving any proposed changes. I think one of the things that has been suggested is that that there could be more cars at strategic points. This is something that I heard very clearly in the debate that we've had in the past in this chamber. So if, for example, you have somebody at the far end of Penthin and there's fog and the helicopter can't make it, actually the issue is not the helicopter, it's about the strategic positioning of the vehicles. And I think that's something that has very much come across and has been understood, which is why I think that has become certainly part of the options that have been put forward.
Well, thank you for your answer, Minister. Certainly, you're right in one sense. At the beginning of this process, we were told that 500 more people would be able to reach under the original proposal. That, as I now certainly understand it, is something which has been dismissed. But the First Minister mentioned it again last week. So I do hope, Minister, that you and the First Minister can intervene in this process and take a lead on this process, because it's important that you know the feelings on the ground, what the feelings are in Mid and North Wales and in these communities. You also mentioned the issue of fog. Well, we've got a weather warning coming in for Mid and North Wales tomorrow, which is significant. At the moment, we've got two bases, Welshpool, Carnarvon, covering Mid and North Wales. If proposals come forward to have one centralised base, then that base, if that closes due to adverse weather, there is then no cover in the Mid and North Wales area from a Mid and North Wales base. So there's greater flexibility by having those two bases, and that makes and answers the point that you made about fog. Fog, adverse weather, this is exactly why we need to retain both bases in Welshpool and Carnarvon. So can I ask you, Minister, given the fact that the First Minister, I think, perhaps making some statements which I'm not sure are entirely accurate last week, can I ask that you and the First Minister actively get involved in this process, intervene, and ultimately you, as the Minister, make the final decision in terms of what happens to the current bases in Welshpool and Carnarvon, because moving from 4 to 3 bases is entirely unacceptable for the population of Mid and North Wales.
Well, I think it is important that local populations once again become involved in this consultation. There has been an incredible response to the consultation so far. We know how much this service is loved by the populations, in particular of Mid and North Wales. So I would encourage them to feed into that response, and obviously a decision will be made after we've had the final recommendation.
Plaid Cymru.